to them. Let's take a look at what our viewers are saying on this conversation this morning. The hashtag is New Dawn. Sydney there says, in a mature democracy, allegations of such magnitude would warrant serious consequences. Ignoring them sets a dangerous precedent and undermines the very foundation of our democratic values. CS LINTURI should have resigned and removed forthwith. Galgalo says, let's accept that Waziri LINTURI has been sanitized of any wrongdoing. But let's also agree that farmers were sold fake fertilizer. Where does this leave the farmers? Who will take responsibility for this unfortunate crime? Ama hii story tumefunga. And we have Honorable Kagombe here saying Kenyans will get justice. And of course, that investigation is in place. We'll be asking a bit more questions on that. Mokaya says, LINTURI's impeachment case clearly shows that corruption remains prevalent in serious incidents. We cannot combat corruption through mere roadside declarations. This is a critical issue that strikes at the heart of our nation. Cleophas Kimanga says the impeachment was badly prosecuted. LINTURI was accused of things he legally could not have done. The impeachment should have been on his political responsibility for the scandal as the head of the ministry, not on technical matters. It was reasonable to save him. And Kenneth Arap there says, how can we pay high taxes and yet no one takes responsibility and accountability during scandals? In the West, where the Finance Bill 2024 is best suitable, LINTURI should have resigned on the first day. All right, that's what Kenyans are saying. We invite more feedback and comments. The hashtag is New Dawn. In studio with us is Gatundu South Member of Parliament, Honorable Gabriel Kagombe, and Mosop Member of Parliament, Honorable Abraham Kirwa. Honorable Kagombe, I'd like to begin with a comment from one of the viewers. And he says that the impeachment was badly, the hearing itself was badly prosecuted, and that questions on the CS should have been on his, say, political responsibility as the head of the ministry and not so much the technical responsibility. Now, couple that with the fact that in an 11-member select committee, we actually had one member who abstained from voting. And many are reading a lot of tactical play from the numbers, the voting pattern to the framing of the questions to be investigated on the CS himself. Where do you think this leaves us now, considering what you know in the Agriculture Committee? You see, what members of the public and everybody who has commented on the social media there, except Cleophas Kimanga, the members of the public are baying for LINTURI's blood, and what they want is to see someone just come down and get done with him. But you see, we're in a democracy. As he says, when you accuse the Honorable CS of procurement, we have a person who is actually charged with the responsibility of, okay, why are we not removing the president? Because he's the head of government and LINTURI is in that government. Why are we not calling for the removal of the president? Because there's someone responsible. And we all know that concept of that person who's charged with that responsibility. What we've not done is, no, we didn't go. And by the way, even as you sit here, you know that the NCPB, the people in charge of procurement at NCPB were arrested by the DCI and they are charged, all right? You know that is happening. Because I said here earlier today that we cannot politicize investigations. The people who are responsible for this are charged, and DCI has a watertight case against them. The Committee on Agriculture has a very good case against them. But you cannot politicize it by just saying, okay, now let's remove LINTURI. Removing LINTURI may make the public happy, but it doesn't give justice. All right? And I'm saying this, and I said earlier, I cannot sit here and pretend to be a very good friend to CS LINTURI. I mean, I see what the public is saying, and I hear the public, and I hear the members of the public. But then we have a democracy, and this democracy has its tenets that must be followed. We have a constitution that we cannot violate. And if the CS is not going to remove himself as we would expect, as you'd say, okay, now be magnanimous enough, be the bigger person and say, now my ministry has been caught up in this and now I resign. Because he's not going to do it, you remove him. But how do you remove him? As prescribed in the constitution, as prescribed in Article 152.
And as prescribed in Article 152, I just said that as framed, as Honorable Wamboka brought the allegations, it was not sufficient to remove him. This is something that we must accept. But I said, if he had, and Cleophas Kemanga there says, if the questions were otherwise, other than technical issues, then it would have been different. For people who would have sat and said, okay, on this particular question, and I told you the committee will not address itself to any other things. I mean, you cannot say now, oh, he's standing in society, or has he been fighting, I don't know with who. Those issues will not come to play. You will only deal with the issues brought before the committee. And that is what the Honorable Wamboka was not able to do. All right. And I say that we shall get justice as Kenyans, because I'm one of them. I'm one of the Kenyans who bought fertilizer. And in as much as I did not buy the fake fertilizer, I'm at the risk of buying fake fertilizer if we do not take action against such people. And therefore, I want justice myself. I want justice to to his constituents who are in Mosop. I want justice for any Kenyan who would have, because to me, this is obtaining by false pretenses. Because you go and get farmers to pay money for something that is disguised as fertilizer, but is not fertilizer. All right.
I just want to get your thoughts on one thing, because you say the committee could only deal, and as a court of law does, with the information presented before it. Now, I followed the proceedings of this committee, and at some point, they voted to allow additional witnesses to further prosecute this case. And you know, when they say that, then you would think then they would begin with the witnesses most crucial to this case, and the witnesses who've been mentioned most in the investigation. So we've seen the PS for agriculture; his name has come up. We've seen Kel Chemicals come up in these investigations. But when a proposal was made to call the PS for agriculture and Kel Chemicals to give more information, you know, on the conduct of the CS, then the members of the committee could not agree. So yes. The committee deals with the information before it. Why was
if Kel Chemicals comes to the committee, is it in doubt how procurement was done? Are we investigating how procurement was done? So what is Kel Chemicals going to come and tell the committee on the removal of the CS? Because you see, the Kel Chemicals would only come and say, okay, we were involved in this, and the tender document that came, the people who vetted the procurement process was done by the CS or was done illegally. If we come to that, we shall call Kel Chemicals. But the question before this committee was not whether procurement was done properly. It was not whether there was KEBS involved in it. Those were not the questions. That question that you're asking is before the committee on agriculture. We have called Kel Chemicals. We have called even the gentleman who brought the investigative video. We have now called all those people, because that is within the mandate of the Committee on Agriculture as we try to find the truth to this story. If you look at the Constitution, it only gives 10 days for this select committee to bring back its information. So it cannot involve itself in sideshows and, you know, a lot. They do not even have the time to go to NCPB in Meru and Mosop and Kitale like we did. They don't have that latitude. They don't have that time. So when we say that the Constitution, and this is what we should have read, this is what we should have known, that before the matter comes to actually, let me just put it this way. That is what Honorable Wamboka should have done. He should have had that evidence and now present it to the committee. He would have drawn the nexus. Then now the committee would have found the CS culpable. But he did not. You get what I mean? And I'm not celebrating that he didn't. I'm not celebrating that at all. But I'm saying that is the truth. Bitter as it is, hard as it is to swallow, it is a truth. It is a state that we find ourselves in.
Kira, I'd like to get your thoughts on the fact that, and we still go back to the issue of democracy. The committee, of course, recommends that there be no further proceedings of the matter. It's done and dusted. And the CS has been vindicated. But the petitioner, Jack Wamboka, says he will push on with the removal campaign by rallying Parliament to even block the Agriculture Ministry budget. Now, you know,
the budget is not Linturi's. The budget is our budget.
When we speak of democracy and we hear such things coming in.
Those are just
emotional, you know, declaration. You know, sometimes you can't just wake up and just declare, this is how I feel, this is how things should be. There is always a rule of law, and there is things, you know, that's why we call ourselves in Parliament lawmakers. We make the law, we follow the law, we make sure the law is just, you know, implemented as it should. So this particular hearing has come to an end. The committee was dissolved. The report was final. It was read in the House, and Linturi was absolved of any wrongdoing. So he moves on and he continues as the. So whether there is another issue that is going to come up, or another member who is going to raise that, let's block the issue of the budget of agriculture. Those are just, it's not possible. How are you going to just block and members also know that this country depends on agriculture. After so much back and forth, I think it's time now to sit down and look at, we should have a very competent person running this particular docket. Whether it continues to be Linturi, whether it's somebody else, but we truly need somebody who's very competent to actually run agriculture. We need competent people, and I want to believe that we do have the PSS, we have people who are very competent in running this. But at the same time, even as Kenyans also, we ought to be, you know, and I know Gombe has actually said that justice will be done. And I believe that justice will be done, because most of the farmers are saying, so what now? Linturi has been acquitted. Right. Now we are left in tumewacha kwa mata. What's going to happen to us? But I want to assure the farmers that one, that they will be compensated. That's for sure. Two, that justice will be done. We have to find out who actually supplied and who is responsible, and they will have to pay the price, because in the future, if we don't actually punish people who did this, then people will continue to do. And this issue of fake seeds also, which is already going on. There's an issue of the fake fertilizer. So we have to have a law that actually says, if you are found supplying fake seeds, right now it says, if you're found just supplying fake seeds, you only pay 1 million and you are let go. The penalties has to be so much, such that nobody will try, even in the future, to do the same thing, because agriculture is our backbone. We depend on food, we depend, and so when somebody tries to mess with the basics of the community, then something has to be done. So laws has to be in place, and I will be bringing a bill soon when we come back from recess on penalties on those who brings fake seeds and on those who brings fake fertilizers, so that the penalty will be so high that nobody will ever try.
Right, and you know, one of our viewers had said that this is a matter that touches at the heart of the nation. And of course, for the likes of Honorable Kagombe now sitting in the Agriculture Committee and continuing the investigations, a lot of expectations, you know, rest, you know, of Kenyans rest on your shoulders for justice on this issue. But as this continues to unfold, this entire impeachment saga has caused quite a lot of jitters, sent quite a lot of jitters among cabinet secretaries, really, even within the Kenya Kwanza administration. What does it say to you of Kenya's democracy, that we are here today, that we've seen an impeachment trial, you know, against a cabinet secretary, that Kenyans are more and more using the channels provided for by the Constitution to seek accountability?
I must say that we have come a long way. I mean, I don't think this was some 20 years ago, or say 25 years ago. I don't think this is something that could have been even dreamt of in the 90s. And I think we must agree that we have come a long way. And I think our democracy has really improved. And I think we have made strides in democracy compared to other developed nations and other very progressive democracies. We, as a young democracy, has really made strides in democracy that we are even thinking about it. You remember there's a time when even thinking or even anticipating the removal of a CS or the president. You remember there's a time that even thinking of the death of a president was itself
a crime.
A crime, you know. it was really a serious crime. So we have come a long way, and it is good that we appreciate, and we're also going to learn. This creates, in as much as it aborted, it creates a precedence. We'll be referring to it in the future and saying, now people who will, and it's a learning process, people who will want to attempt to remove a CS in the future will do a better job. Now it has come, you know, a lot of times as a democracy, the constitution that we did in 2010 will only be fully understood by all of us after every single piece of it has been tried in court, has been tried in parliament, has been tried in the public, and then we see how it plays out, and then we see these are the hurdles. It's just the same thing that we make mistakes when you're learning. You make a wrong answer, then you realize, oh, that was the wrong answer. This is how to answer that question, even in school. So over time, the very progressive constitution that we made in 2010 is we are putting meat to it. We are coming to understand it better. We are creating precedents. Even in court, the interpretation of law, a lot of times laws are made by precedents. You say that a senior court or a higher court at this day sat and made this ruling, and therefore it forms part of our jurisprudence. It's the same thing. Our jurisprudence is created in these committees, in parliament, in courts, and in so many other places. And therefore, for me, as a democracy in this country, I think that we have made very serious progress. And every case, whether successful or not, continues to create and to be part of our jurisprudence.
Kira, your thoughts on how far we've come when you look at this Mithika LINTURI impeachment bid, and what message it sends to the rest of the cabinet, really, and other state officers in higher positions?
I think Kenya is actually growing democratically. I think we've come long ways looking at where we were 20 years and where we are now. That even an issue of actually removing a sitting CS comes to the floor of the House. I think we are really growing and maturing democratically. And I want to appreciate Kenyans because we are growing as a people. And this is actually a message that is actually going to be taken very seriously with the rest of the cabinet secretaries, because now they've come to realize actually you can actually be removed. Kenyans are watching, members of parliament are serious, and if evidence actually was enough, LINTURI today would not be a member of, you would not be a CS. So I think it was a good thing. I actually support it. I support this motion from Mboga that now this message has gotten home. Now that not only the CSS, even the PSS and the rest of the members in cabinet knows for sure that you have to take your job seriously. And I want to thank the president because he allowed the process to continue, because he could have just not said, no, this thing should not go to the floor. But it was allowed so that now it sends a very serious message that on issues of corruption, we are very serious. On issues of things like this, we are very serious as a nation to fight and to make sure that there is matters of integrity which are taken seriously. So I think it was a good thing. I think it sent a lot of jitters. I was talking to some of the members last night who were in cabinet and some of them who were in senior position in this government. And they were telling us this thing was not only on LINTURI, it was on many parts of government that everybody now was watching and wondering now what's going to happen next. So I think it was a good thing. It has sent a message. I think the message is home. And I think the fight on corruption, which the president has been championing to make sure that corruption in this country is actually rooted out, actually is going to be even more. We continue to fight the issue of the corruption, and everybody is going to take their job seriously.
All right. And gentlemen, we must wind up. But a lot has been learned. However, you know, there are those who say that the shenanigans and the politics that was at play during this impeachment hearing exposed the nakedness of the National Assembly, so to speak. And, you know, you've spoken to this briefly, Kira, but we've had a lot of allegations that money changed hands. And, you know, we have people like, you know, Catherine Omanyo, Rarieda MP, Otiendo Amolo, confessing that money had changed hands, that some had been approached to vote against the impeachment motion. And this is something that Otiendo Amolo actually raised, you know, as a standing order. Issues like this really, you know, in terms of perception and trust, it does a lot to the image of Parliament and the National Assembly. Kagombe, what are your thoughts? But, you know, because we know, we don't know, but we hear that 5 million shillings could have changed hands, and we hear it from none other than members of Parliament themselves. How are Kenyans to dismiss allegations like that?
You know, we are politicians, and you know, at times, we play to the gallery. I know those are the people you've mentioned are members that we sit with in Parliament. But you know, at times in politics, people make some declarations that are really not backed by any facts. And unfortunately, we do not have the luxury of asking them to table the evidence that they were given the money. And when someone says something that happened in the darkness, you see, bribery is a very interesting issue, because you only make an allegation, and people will believe, because in any case it will not have been done in the public. You cannot say now, show us the evidence, because it is expected that when someone was offering you a bribe, you were supposed to be hiding. You cannot even ask for telephone conversations, because he will say that, you see, he was hiding, he knew that he was committing a crime, and therefore he hid. So it becomes very difficult, and even people of integrity could make an allegation like that, and it flies at the face of our society, and there's nothing that we can do about it. Therefore, I really don't want to make comments on that and into the integrity of members of parliament. But I also want to say that I doubt it was possible to buy the members of parliament needed. Should there have been a vote, if the price was 5 million shillings, then you must say that then these people have more money than we may have access to as a country. I mean, how do you come and if you're able to give, say, 150 members 5 million, then it says a lot. I leave it to the public and the viewers to make a decision for themselves.
And of course, those are, like you said, those are hearsays. Nobody actually has real evidence that money exchange earns. Anybody was forced to just vote, against his conscience. There is so much that goes on in Parliament, but I don't think that I have been in there now. This is my second year, but nobody has approached me to just give me some money to vote in. I vote my conscience. I just read the bill and I vote where I think is the right way. So I want to believe that members also of that special committee of the 11 members, they voted their conscience, and because we don't have, the same thing goes down to, do we have really evidence that money exchange hands? Which on this case, none.
All right, and of course, it's just on the issue of evidence, and we can only work with what is before us, and this has been done in the dark. But your final comments, gentlemen, as we wind up on, of course, the way forward for the agriculture sector, and Kagombe, I'd like to, let me begin with you, Kira. Your final comments on what your expectations are, even on the Agriculture Committee that continues to investigate this fake fertilizer saga.
Michelle, I truly want to thank you even for bringing this issue of agriculture. Kenya depends, 90% or 80% of us, we depend on agriculture. So this is a very, very serious area that needs to be taken very seriously. We want to make sure that we have very competent people who are running this particular docket. But at the same time, we want to urge wananchi to continue producing in their farms, because this is how we are going to make sure that we don't have hunger in this country, we don't have shortage of food. And this was just but a small issue that actually put us back. But we are going to make sure moving forward, issues of fake fertilizer will never happen in this country. We want to make sure that farmers get the right seeds, farmers get the right fertilizer, so that in the future we will be able to say we learn from our mistakes. And we learn from our mistakes, and I think Kenya is going to a better place.
All right, Kagombe, very briefly, as a member of the Agriculture Committee, even as you assure Kenyans of justice in this fake fertilizer scandal, can you assure Kenyans that there is no more fake fertilizer in the market, especially in the government subsidy program?
Before I assure Kenyans that, and I will, someone somewhere in this country went and planned on how to supply fake fertilizer. Someone went and sat and plotted, and not one person, not two, but a group of people, because there is no way it was only done by one person. So people sat, colluded to defraud Kenyans. So that, for me, goes a lot to tell us about who Kenyans are and who we are as a society. And I think we really, really must think about it as ourselves and say, we need to change how we do things. We need to change our outlook towards life, because someone somewhere sat and plotted that. That's very shameful for me, and that tells of our character. Number two, we can joke with everything else, but we cannot joke with food. We cannot joke with food, we cannot joke with education, we cannot joke with health. Those are issues that nobody should even dream of playing games with. And therefore, I have confidence in the investigations that we have so far conducted as the Committee on Agriculture, and I am certain that we are going to get to the core of this matter. We are going to get people punished. We are going to get the law at work. Okay. And I assure Kenyans that this was just a small hitch, but the bigger picture in agriculture is that it remains, and we're still in production. I mean, it was a, I don't want to downplay it.
You must find out,
I don't want to downplay it, but it was a small, amount of bags of fertilizer. But even one bag is bad.
Right.
But the bigger picture continues.
All right, and we hope there's no more fake fertilizer really in that government subsidy program. But that's a good point to end it on as you assure Kenyans of justice. Many thanks for speaking to us. That is a Gatundu South MP, Honorable Gabriel Kagombe. We've also been speaking to Mosop, Member of Parliament, Honorable Abraham Kira. Gentlemen, many thanks for your time. And thank you for watching this morning as well and for watching us here on The New Dawn. My name is Michelle Ngele Odhiambo. Good morning.